keeping it short, what happened was I knew that I had to decide that day. I couldn't put it off any longer. I couldn't wait for the woman to respond to the house sit because I needed to book plane tickets. I needed to lock in places to stay. I needed to make my decision. So I felt a pull to go into a meditation, which I did. It lasted 33 minutes. Not knowing that, but I started recording in case anything came through that I was unaware of. Ultimately deleted the recording because it was really more private and nothing significant channeled through. But I noticed how long it was, and it was 33 minutes and change. And then I decided to go out for my walk. And what I did was I pulled up each of those 3 locations on a Google map and left them side by side, covering the entire screen, each taking up 1/3 of the space with the pinpoint for that location. And I did a little chant, let's say, and I said, show me the way. And I decided that when I went out for the walk, I would open up, I would allow and look for signs and synchronicities to guide me to which of these was the right one for, let's say, my highest good. And went for the walk. It took about 2.5 hours. When I came back, I was going to sit down and decide at that time, and nothing of significance came through. I was way open. I felt the broader connection to, all that is. And without going in detail, that meditation that I had gone through for 33 minutes was all about astral travel. I went from being in a room or a hallway full of doors that just seemed to be moving quickly. I was standing alone, standing still, but the hallway seemed to be moving and all the doors were moving. And then instantly I found myself in the last car of a subway, looking out the little portal window in the back as we were passing a station. And when you do that, they have all the beams and then the lights from the station. It creates this flashing effect as you're moving. And I had that same tunnel kind of vision as I did in the hallway. And then I moved into a room and I could see everything in the room, although it was quite sparse. And there was a window next to a lounge chair. And after moving myself around the room, because I wanted to see what was there in case I could recognize the room. But I kept getting pulled to the window. And I'm leaving out lots of details for time's sake. But through that window, I saw a lot of pastel colors, as if whatever was beyond the window was kind of just like a watercolor painting. But there was a ton of light out there. It was not lighting up the room, which in fact was more of a room that you would find, let's say, at dusk. Muted colors, more browns and tans and that kind of thing. And I got pulled out into that light. Or all of a sudden what happened was I was in the room, having come from the subway and then having come from the hallway of doors, and found myself in the equivalent of like in the movie Contact, where she's zooming down this, she's not moving at all, but these light trails around her are moving at a fast speed. And then the image, let's say at the end of the portal where you can see the distance, the distant area, was moving at a different speed, as if you're flying through space and time at this fast speed, because you can tell because of the light beams along the kind of portal that you're finding yourself, what's a caterpillar in a cocoon, find yourself cocooned in. But yet outside of that, what I was seeing mostly was kind of this blue color and stars moving from left to right in a kind of a semicircular pattern at a much slower speed. But I wasn't moving. In all those scenarios, I wasn't moving. Everything around me was moving. So having that sensation, then going out for that walk, and before I left, setting up those 3 maps. I come back, I sit down to figure out, what is the best direction for me. And then I get a text message from a former homeowner from Missoula, Montana. And she said, call me, please. I have something I want to share with you. So I did, and we talked, and mostly she spoke. And we talked for about another 20 minutes. The minute I hung up the phone with her, my phone beeped. It gave me a notification that a friend of mine who writes a weekly rhyme on a website called therememberings.com had posted his weekly entry, being, again, this is Wednesday, and it was in the early afternoon. I think it was around 12:50 my time, which would have made it 3:50 Eastern Standard Time. And when I pulled it up, I immediately got chills because the title of it was The Map. And here I was sitting looking at 3 pinpoints on 3 Google Maps to decide where I was going to go next. And I was going to decide now. And I'd asked for, signs to show me which way was the right way to go for me. And when I read through it eagerly, I found my answer. There are some lines in there, if you want to pull it up. I will leave the link to that rhyme in the description as well. And he talks about the ocean and the shore next to the ocean and how the maps seem to be wrong or inaccurate in some way. And he mentions the inaccuracies of the map a few times in that writing. Now, what makes this pointedly significant for me is that the owner of this Airbnb in Langlois, Oregon, had mentioned to me, don't pay attention to Google Map. It's misleading. It makes it appear as if you're walking, on land, run into water, have to cross that water to reach some more land, which then leads to the beach and out to the ocean. And she said, it's really not an accurate reflection, and it makes me crazy that it represents our area that way because it doesn't look like it's solid. It looks like there's no real easy way to get to the ocean, and there is. You just walk there. And she recommended that I use the satellite view, which I did. And when you do that, you see that, there are these tiny little, spots where water can come and go, little brooks, but you basically can walk right over them. So the way in which this rhyme was written made it clear, of the 3 places, the only one near the ocean was the one in Langlois. The only one that had misrepresentations that had been brought to my attention was Langlois. So I knew the place for me to go was Langlois. I closed that rhyme. I pulled up all the data that I needed to book my hotels, to book my flights, to lock in the Airbnb, and so forth. And within another half an hour, it was all done, and I'm on my way there in another week. So now what makes all of that interesting is that this morning, before I started to record this, and after I looked at my notes, what I recognized was there was this one recording after I cleared out my files from June the 6th of 2021. And I thought, let me give it a listen now that I've been here for 4 months from June. It'll be interesting to see what I can expand upon from that June 6th message. And the message was another type of currency. I'll have to leave a link, and I'll even have to upload this audio to probably my SoundCloud account because I haven't posted it anywhere. It was quite personal. And what happened was for the next 10, maybe even 11 days after that, every day, I received such rapid fire information coming from, through my mind's eye, that I was constantly recording audios, doing research, making notes for hours every morning, so that by the early afternoon I would be exhausted and I have to kind of wash it free so that I could bring my energy back to, prime. And that happened every day. I couldn't get away from it. And even sometimes in the evenings after I'd cleared my energy again, more data would begin to come in the form of videos that were referencing things that had happened earlier that day. And I knew there was no way for me to even digest it or process it. I just had to capture it all so that sometime in the future I could review it. And interestingly enough, a month later, the computer that I had written all this on crashed. And I have since been able to, I got a new computer. I was able to replace the battery on that computer to retrieve all the data before I let that one go. But I didn't have a chance for a long time to even go back and look at all that to attempt to process it, which now in retrospect I can see was part of it. Because when I re-listened to this, what I got was that what I had received on that very first day about another type of currency being the way in which I would receive the equivalent of currency, money ideally, or some way in which I would run into people or experiences or exchanges that I wasn't looking for, but that would just fall into my lap, that would give me the direction I needed to go in directions where I would get discounts, let's say, or get things gifted to me, or go in a direction that would significantly direct my future and so forth, which is what just happened. I asked for it. I have that strange, note that I wrote on the 1st of October, and now it had actually occurred. And here's what I learned in that audio. What I said was that this other type of currency, which was a phrase that came to me in answer to a question that I asked, and I didn't understand what actually it meant. So I wrote it on a piece of paper and put it on the refrigerator and thought about it, put it there so that it could constantly come back to my mind, because I knew it meant something more than just its an initial impression upon me. And that's what happened. Another type of currency. And that other type of currency was coming through these interstellar, interdimensional, transdimensional connections that I was having. And what has happened from June the 6th to the present day is that every day I think something and I see it manifest instantly, in most cases, right in front of me. Everything from weather to, products I'm looking for on the shelf, to answers to questions and somebody will pass me and say exactly that, or whatever it might be. And it's not like I'm asking for these things and saying, okay, now present in my world, or doing, the equivalent of trying to manifest them myself. It's instant. It's as if I'm living in another methodology, way of being in reality. And it's become more and more and more prevalent to the point where I am aware that I literally live in a different, let's say, version, or I'm able to perceive things from a perspective that is so unique that it is beyond the 3D reality way of conditioned narrative that we're all taught. I live in a different way, and that is what that meant. Another type of currency was another way to live in this world, to exchange, to get what you need to survive as a being of form. And at the very end of that recording, I said, and I'm going to come back now every 3 months and look at this again and see how things have changed to get a better feel for how this is rolling out for me. And I listened to that 4 months to the day later on October the 6th. Well, the morning of the 7th, but all of this had just happened to me on the 6th, and it all made sense. What showed up on the 6th and was shown me in advance on the 1st had just occurred. Let me read again. A friend that you trust, 44. That's the friend who wrote the rhyme and rememberings. Just a week plus away. And then I ask, what is just a week away? You manifest your synchronicities. End of story. That happened. Prepared to have your mind blown. That happened. Bring genuine connection and fun into your life. That happened. Through VPN. And I don't even know where I got VPN. I don't even know what a virtual private network is, per se. I mean, I don't know why that came through. I am aware of what that means, but I don't know how I got it contextually. But it was a virtual private, energetic, frequential network. And then in caps, recommended for you, your path. Recommended for you. That's what I was asking for. Tell me which way to go. What's the best way for me to go? And then free it all, Queen. Which is, if you look at that card, she's got her hand up in the air, a rod in her hand, a little spark of something in her other palm, and she's excited and happy sitting in a meditative kind of pose with her legs crossed. So I could go on, but I think that I've made the essence of what has occurred this week clear. And I will leave it there.